indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
If any words that I have spoken have commanded attention, that is only because they find an echo in the breasts of those of every land and of every race who love freedom and are the foes of tyranny.
You are not our queens. You are not our kings. You are not our gods. We do not belong to you. We are not your slaves. We stand as free humans that stood from the beginning of time against the strong men.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wednesday, the 13th of April. Slightly delayed today. Apologies for that. But I am your host, Manny Cinder. I am here by myself today because our good friend and co-host is gallivanting around the globe. He's on holiday, which is completely disrespectful to the work we do every Wednesday. Hello to Annie's in the chat. Oh, no. Have a holiday. God say he's going to troll me, isn't he? Hello to everybody in the chat. Hello to everybody going to be catching up in a few minutes. And obviously, we're going to start off with on Banksy, actually. Let me share my Speaker's Corner online account. Where is it? Here we go. Let me see if you can find Banksy, because Banksy's been posting some funny stuff today. It's actually a Banksy day in many ways. Let's see, where am I? How do I search for friends? Oh, here we go. Well, this is slightly embarrassing. No, I want to search for friends. Okay, let's do it. Banksy's here on the friends list. So let's have a look at what Banksy's been up to then, because he's on holiday. But which one is it out? So this was a brilliant live stream. Banksy, well done for this live stream. You had been stitches, but we've got to watch this. See, wearing the mask. Oh, there's, look, stop, pause. Look, chemtrails. Banksy's showing us that he now believes in chemtrails. Can you believe it? But anyway, let's play this video. There you go, wearing your mask, wearing your face nappy. You can't breathe. Can't you breathe, Banksy? His eyebrows are having sex. Oh, back to the chemtrails. Look at all those clouds forming. Oh, the irony. Right, all right. Let's go on to the next. No, that's not the one. This one. Okay, the hotel looks nice. I'm going to give him that. If this is his view, it looks nice. But what I don't understand, that people that go to these wonderful resorts, but that's not really the country you've gone into, is it? Let's face it. I mean, there's plenty of resorts in the UK. Let's see if there's any chemtrails. This is his video on the plane. That's London anyway. That's the Thames. I recognise it. You can hear a child crying in the background. You're in economy, are you, Banks? Only messing. Nothing wrong with economy. All right, that's a bit of a boring one. So here we go. Look at this. Look at this fancy bugger. Just 3 seconds. Oh no! Well, that looks absolutely amazing. I think that's all he's done. I'm a bit jealous, to be honest. I wish I could go on holiday, but I'm too busy working my socks off. Well, that's a completely different stuff. Whoa! Okay, Banksy's actually calling. Let me share my screen. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Banksy's calling me on speakers calling online. What a troll! What a troll! Okay, share. Oh, here we go. 1 minute. 1 minute. Oh, I can't get it. Is that gonna be right? Okay, share. There you go. All right, Banksy, how's it going?
You're frozen, dude. You're frozen for like 5-10 seconds. So now you're all good. How's it going, everyone? How's everyone at the
So where
house?
So where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the hotel. I'm still in the resort. Unfortunately, it's a little bit cold to go outside, so I came to a location where I thought it would be a little bit more quiet. But it seems other people have discovered this area too. I'm not the only one. But for now, I'm sort of behind me. It's pretty empty. So
Are you having a good holiday, my friend?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I only posted a few what's it called? A few clips because well, I've got a bunch of other footage which I have to edit though because there are people in it that I don't want to be seen, so I have to edit them first before I can upload them. So that's why I'm holding off on other further footage. But for now, this is me making a video call to you through Speakers Corner Online.
Do you actually use the and have you? Sometimes I use the audio call, but I don't really use a video call. This is one of the first times I've used it. Do you use this a lot?
Sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to, because I'm trying to migrate all my friends and family to use this for like instead of like WhatsApp. We can actually use this because we're all on here, and at least I know I'm a little bit more, if you like, confident at the stuff that we send. Because I mean, like I was talking to someone earlier on about WhatsApp. And how we send all sorts of documents. I'm not joking. We're talking people send passports, copies of their passport. When we were booking the flights and everything, we had all the flight information on WhatsApp. We had all the passports information on WhatsApp. Even some bank details were sent to me through WhatsApp. And I'm like, you guys know that this is all sitting on a Facebook server somewhere, right? This is all owned by Zuckerberg now. You just sent your whole life's information to Zuckerberg. So that's why I try to encourage them to use Signal if possible. Even email is better than sending it through WhatsApp. It's amazing how much people don't realize how much of their life that they send through WhatsApp. Now you can, on Speakers Corner Online, you can do the same thing. You can send the same messages through their app or even their website. You can send personal messages to each other. Unfortunately, the only thing is at the moment they don't have a What?
The little kid trolling you. He did a bit of a dance and he went away.
They're playing football.
Oh, I see.
They are literally playing football next to me, indoor football. It's awesome. This place is actually far busier. It was literally no one here when I came. Like there was no one here when I came. I was like, this is perfect. It's quiet. There's no one here. It's all sweet. I can do this right here. No disruptions. And then all of a sudden, like, dozen people showed up just 2 minutes before we went live, so I can't even move now because I'm kind of stuck here.
Okay, but you do know who you do know. I have a guest coming on today. Your art nemesis, the one and only Zoubida, is coming on today. What?
That should be interesting.
You didn't seem that surprised when I broke it to you on the show last week. Why was that? Had somebody told you already?
Not really. No, I've just got a good poker face. That's what.
I
Just
I was expecting you to first say, yeah, whatever, like, tell me who's really coming on, and I was gonna kind of like milk it a little bit, but no, you
nah,
accepted it straight
it's
away.
just like whatever, man. I mean, the funny thing is, I don't know if you remember, Manny, but when Speakers Corner Online started to approach us, back last year, sometime or year before, there was they tried to set up a debate between me and Little Hippo, and the Little Hippo, you know. What's the term? She bottled it. She chickened out, and she didn't go through with it. So, and I said at that time to the Speakers Corner guys, I said, it's fine. She wants to flake on that. It is what it is. She's shit scared. But
But
I
you
actually
but
said,
you do realize
come a
that
time.
you do realize I'm going to give her the floor while you're away.
Yeah, but what I said was at the time, I said, don't worry, there'll come a time where she'll come to us or she'll come to them and beg to be on this platform. And here we are today.
I don't
Here we
think I
are.
don't in a
Yes.
defense. I don't think she's begged. I think that's a bit you're kind of over yoking the pudding there. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't actually mind Zoubida as much as obviously you or most people. But is there any question, a sensible question, that you want me to ask her that perhaps she can respond to? But like I said, it has to be a sensible question.
Sensible question. Unfortunately, when it comes to Little Hippo, there I have no sensible questions. They're all going to be violently vicious savagery as I try to tear her limb from limb. There are no sensible questions between wolves and sheep. And I'm the wolf.
with a very sore backside.
Yeah.
So we saw the video of the two videos of the amazing hotel. How's your holiday going so far?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's just, I mean, to be honest, you were saying like earlier on, why do people go to these resorts? Because they're not really representative of the nation that you're going to, and it's true. You're not going to get to grow up with Cypriot Greeks all my life. All my younger friends when we were growing up, they were mostly because Greeks were the closest culturally to my culture. So we went to Greek nights in university. I had loads of Greek friends. We were on Greek nights all the time. So I'm very comfortable in Greece. Greece is like second nature to me. The food, everything. But the thing with coming to resorts, to be perfectly honest with you, we don't come here because we want to mingle with the natives. We come here because it's sunny, because we don't get the sun that we do in England. In England, I'm not joking. At David Lloyd's right now, I have a heated pool, indoor and outdoor. I can have a gym that's 1,000 times better than the gym at this resort, a swimming pool that's bigger than this resort, everything that I need, sunbed, massage, pedicures, whatever the hell I want. It's all available to me in England at my current gym, at my David Lloyd's gym. It's just that I can't sit outside in the outdoor swimming pool right now at David Lloyd's because it's 19 Celsius, and that's just the temperature they give us with the wind chill factor. It's like 14, it's like 12. It's insanely cold. Here, it's admittedly it's not warm. It's not hot like it is in the summertime, but it is 22. And the outdoor swimming pools are a little bit chilly. The indoor swimming pool is better, but nevertheless, I mean, when it comes to the facilities, I've got all of the facilities I have at this resort at my gym in London. It's just I don't have the sun. I don't have that. Basically the sun really. The beach would be nice as well. And I mean, the beach is beautiful here. I have to say, there aren't many. I mean, I've been to Cyprus once before when I was a child, and where we were at that time, the beach was quite rocky and the sea was sort of rocky. But here, the sand is perfect. It's just, I mean, and the resort itself literally has almost its own semi-private beach. So there isn't like any other riffraffs.
Yeah, we know you're showing off. You got your own private beach. So Pauline Smith is saying you've caught the sun on your face. So yeah, Banksy, you're looking like a lobster, mate. All right. And let me correct you a few things. Let me correct you a few things about Britain. There are some of the most beautiful beaches in Britain. Have you not been to Sandbanks? Have you not been to the Jurassic Coast? Absolutely amazing. And they will take on. Okay, they may not be beaches like you have in the Maldives or in Goa. They're not those type of beaches, but they're beautiful sandy beaches with wonderful coastlines and plenty of history. So, I'm not sure. I mean, you can, and sometimes the southeast of England has been hotter than Delhi. It has been hotter than many other parts of the world at the peak of summer. The only problem is, obviously, there's weather manipulation going on with chemtrails, as you well know. And there's that factor. And another factor is the autumn and spring are not as warm or frequently as warm as we would like. All I am saying, I hope to God, even though it's not, I hope to God that climate change is true and global warming is true, because Britain is going to get warmer and we're going to have some wonderful summers.
Well, since you're not vaccinated, I hope for your sake, Manny, that you will, because that's about the only beach you're ever going to get. You're never leaving England, are you?
Yeah, I've got a private jet, so don't worry about it.
I suppose, yeah. For those of you who have that, but no, I mean, getting into Cyprus was hard. They actually tested us all at the airport, even though we had all our vaccination certificates, all this thing called the Cyprus passport that you had to fill out. All of that we had to do all of that paperwork before we arrived. And then when we did arrive, we still had to get vaccinated at the airport, which has come through on my mobile as negative. So I am good.
Well, enjoy AIDS, because apparently all the double and triple vaccinated people are developing AIDS. So enjoy that, my friend. Yeah. Let me know how it goes when I take over the beaches of the world.
How do you know I got it from the vaccine?
Yeah, I heard about you getting up your ass.
Yeah, you start wondering, was it the vaccine or was it the other injection?
Okay, this conversation needs to stop. So, what are your
that trip to Thailand?
So I got an email. Let's talk work. Sorry everybody, you're gonna have to listen. So I got an email asking from head, Speakers Corner line, saying, when are you and Banksy going back on the road? So apparently we've been slacking a little bit. When are you back, and when can we go back on the road?
Well, I mean, when I'm back in a week. But when we can go on the road, I don't mind. I mean, we can go the following Saturday. Usually, I mean, the thing is, this week coming, I told them the week coming, there's going to be Extinction Rebellion this week all over London, probably on the weekend. But I'm not back until Monday. Well, Tuesday. Monday I land Monday. But so really, I can only do something the following weekend. But Extinction Rebellion is out and about, so yeah, we got to get out there and we got to start.
All I need is 5 minutes with Extinction Rebellion. That's all I ask.
Haiku Koo has been amongst them as well, interviewing them and stuff.
Oh, has he?
Yeah, Haiku from Speakers Corner, he's been around. So I guess for us, I mean, if the Extinction Rebellion are still operative by the 23rd, that would be the date for us to get out into the streets and see what's what. But of course, we've got the next Tommy episode 2. That's on the 7th of May. We'll see if we can do something about that. That might be interesting, going to Telford again. Although I'll be honest, Telford's like a sleepy town. It's like only things seem to kick off when when Tommy goes there. But he's been. I mean, you know about his antics in Mexico, right? He got deported from Mexico. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't exactly know what the immigration or holiday, sort of immigration laws in Mexico are, but Tommy is a convicted felon, effectively, in Britain, and usually most countries won't let you in if you have a conviction. And I would have presumed he would have checked all that prior to flying, and I guess he felt it was clear because they let him through at the airport in London. But Sorry, guys, I gotta mask up a little bit. Some kids are walking behind me. I just don't want any randoms to fall into shot when it's it's not necessary. Okay, I think we're good. So yeah, he's. I mean, they say that he claims that the British government sort of called up the Mexican government and told them to kick him out, but I don't know. I don't know whether it's them or whether it was the fact that they checked up with the British government and they found he had a conviction. Now, I think it's Mike Tyson. He's been refused entry into Britain. I think Snoop Dogg got refused entry into Britain. All of them were because they had previous criminal convictions. So his criminal conviction, I'm sure, would have played a part into all of that. The accusation of the British government's harassing me, I'm not entirely sure about that. I've got my own, skepticism. But of course, he's going to he's going to hype it up for himself. So yeah, that's that front. I don't even know how we got there, but there you go. As far as Cyprus is concerned, yeah, Manny, you'll never visit Cyprus for the rest of your life. So enjoy any images I sent you. If you want me to take any photos of any special locations that you'll never see, let me know.
Well, my friend, we'll see about that.
I will say this. I think if you CPR test yourself 2 days prior flying, I think they're good with that. I think they are going to let those slide as well, because they do on their vaccine passport, they do have an option for non-vaccine. You're frozen up on me.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
All right, but yeah, so there is a chance. Maybe you will make it to Cyprus eventually one day.
I don't need to go to Cyprus. I've got everything I need right here in the UK, including the shit weather.
Yeah, well, we say the weather. It's a little bit of a mixed bag. The sun is definitely out. I mean, I got burnt today, even though I'm using factor 50 and 30 on various locations on my body.
Okay, right. So, all right. I'm obviously going to bring on the guest, which is not someone that you need to be on the panel with. So we're going to have to bid you farewell. Thank you so much for coming on. Really nice to talk to you. Nice surprise. Appreciate it. And I'll see you when you get back.
It will do. Ciao. Have a good one, everyone. I'll just listen in the background. But yeah, ciao.
See you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so that was the one and only Banksy. So the cheeky bugger managed to get onto the stream. Actually, that was quite cool. Actually, I'm not going to lie. I had forgotten about these little ways that he could get online. So what I am going to do, so Zoubida hopefully will be back. Will be on in about 5 minutes. I'm going to play a video very quickly while I sort a couple of things out. Let's see which one I can. Is it this one? I think it is this one. Is it this one? I'm going to play it anyway. I'm going to get in trouble for not sorting out my list. Sorry. Right, let's play this and we'll have a chat about it shortly.
So for thousands of years, literally thousands, the most fundamental rule in medicine has been very simple. Do no harm. First, do no harm. Above all else, do no harm. All medical schools in this country teach that rule repeatedly. Doctors who intentionally harm their patients do not belong in the profession, period. But like so many other rules that have ordered society for generations, it is now changing, and very quickly. Weeks ago, we told you about a student at Wake Forest Medical School called Kinchel Del Rosario. On Twitter, Rosario wrote that a patient had mocked her, quote, pronoun pin, which signaled her allegiance to gender ideology of some kind. In response, Del Rosario wrote, quote, I missed his vein, so he had to get stuck twice. In other words, for having different political views, she stabbed her patient. Another student at Wake Forest Medical School called Yuan Liu called the episode, quote, karma. In other words, the patient who was stabbed deserved to be stabbed by his doctor. Now, since we covered that story, Wake Forest Medical School, as well as Wake Forest Baptist Hospital and the company that owns the hospital, Atrium Health, have gone silent. We've asked many questions. They've refused to answer any of them. Questions like, will Del Rosario be allowed to stab more patients in the future as a doctor? But we do know that in a recent email to the student body, the deans at Wake Forest Medical School criticized, quote, unkind people on the internet who dared to talk about the story. They didn't even address the stabbing that took place at their school. That's because most of Wake Forest Medical School community supports that stab. Wake Forest student newspaper has published an editorial blaming the patient. Quote, it is appalling that the vast majority of media coverage surrounding Del Rosario's tweet is critiquing her lack of professionalism rather than her patient's display of bigotry. There's been no known follow-up with the patient concerning the problematic nature of their comments or even any documentation of their inappropriate behavior. So laughing at someone's pin gets you stabbed, and the ghouls are training to be doctors at Wake Forest Medical School think that's fine. So that's prevailing view at Wake Forest, quote, medical school. But not everyone agrees. Some physicians and medical students are shocked by the loathsome response from their administrators. They've informed us that Kaishel Del Rosario is scheduled to begin seeing patients at Wake Baptist Ear, Nose, and Throat Department as soon as next week. She's also on the Wake Forest Planning Committee for an upcoming conference in Dallas on how to treat trans patients. We know why this is happening, by the way. If Kaishel Del Rosario had stabbed a patient because he identified as trans, she would have been expelled immediately. Of course, we'd be in favor of that. Doctors can't stab their patients because they disagree with them. But she hasn't been expelled. She's going to be a physician, maybe at a hospital near you, because she has the right political views. She's a left-wing activist, like the deans and the physicians at Wake Forest who are protecting her. Del Rosario's patient didn't ascribe to that ideology, so according to the principles of equity, he should be stabbed. Okay, just so you know, we're going to keep on that story because that's not acceptable.
No, it's not acceptable at all. I have a lot of respect for Tucker Carlson, but the problem with Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones very recently have both said or indicated that they believe, what's the chap's name from Tesla, that might be on our side. The guy is an absolute nincompoop. He's so well embedded into the the globalist infrastructure that is beyond comprehension. But without further ado, we have been joined by the one and only Zoubida El Arabia. Good evening, Zoubida.
Hello, good evening, Manny. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Praise be to Allah.
You've been a bit of a busy bee. I've seen that you've been attending protests with the megaphone, megahorn, whatever those damn things are called. Tell us a little, give us an update what you've been up to and what was all that about when you and your friend Waleed were there and chanting whatever you were chanting.
Well, before we get into that, Manny, I just would like to address something that your co-host said. I'm not going to use any slurs or anything, but I think this is very important to address so that no misunderstanding can come from it. I did not run away from a debate with him. Yes, Speakers Corner Online did reach out to me, I think over a year ago now, to have a debate, and I initially did agree. But I did take some time to think about it, and what I realized is there is nothing to talk about with me and this individual, because I just see it as the person really wants my attention, and they do things like make silly videos or troll me in hopes that I have a conversation with them or give them that time of day. So for me to sit and have a conversation with him, I'm technically giving this person exactly what they want. He doesn't want to have a debate with me or a conversation or any sort of intellectual discussion. He really just wants to talk to me. And I just feel like I would be giving into his weird fetish by sitting there and having a debate. So it's not a fact that I ran away or, you know, I'm incapable of debating him. I just don't want to feed his weird fetish. Really, that's really what that is. So I just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's,
and also
that's okay. So on that point, do you think that he's managed to troll you to such an extent where you've reacted and perhaps even overreacted at some point?
I think really it was more symbolic that I reacted the way that I did, in a sense where he's somebody that thinks he's sort of untouchable, and really it was to prove to him that nobody is untouchable. My main thing wasn't really to necessarily cause physical damage. It was more of a lesson to show this person that you're nothing but a coward, because anybody can talk and say horrible things online, but you're not so horrible and bad when you're getting bent over and kneed in your backside, are you? So really it was more of the fact that it was a humiliating ordeal for him that he almost has to live with, in a sense where you got bent over by a woman that you were trolling online, and all you did was sort of call for the police. I wasn't expecting him to hit me back, but the point is he didn't even try to attempt to defend himself. So really it just showed that he's nothing but an internet troll. Because
There was
me.
two of you. There was two of you.
Well, yeah, absolutely, but I think I'd done most of the damage. Let's just say.
I mean, can I just ask you, how good did it feel when you kneed him up the arse?
To be honest, it did feel good. It did definitely feel good, because I made him my bitch at that moment. At that moment, I fully dominated him, and I think maybe even he liked it. Like I said, the guy's a bit weird, so he probably enjoyed it.
He's gonna kill me. He's gonna absolutely go ballistic. But he has. Look, I think both of your kind of anger towards each other has died down recently, which is a good thing. I think there was no decent outcome that was gonna come from that. But so because you reacted the way you did, and I'm not saying you were right or you were wrong. You did whatever you did. Now, that doesn't that just firmly put you in the category that you yourself as an individual do not allow free speech?
Well, I've never claimed to be a free speech advocate, and I don't think what he was doing was necessarily free speech. If anything, and I've spoken to lawyers, what he is doing was actually committing a crime, because it was a form of harassment and malicious communication, as far as I'm concerned. I actually went out of my way to block him and try to distance myself from any forms of communication, but that still prompted him to continue the harassment by talking about my dead father, bringing up pictures of my sister, who's got absolutely nothing to do with what's going on online. So again, I consulted with some lawyers, and it did fall into the category of malicious communications and harassment, and even hate crime, because I believe that he was specifically targeting me for two reasons: because I'm a Muslim and because I'm a woman, because I do see him as somebody that's very, very sexist. And I know he's your friend, but if you really took time to hear some of the comments that he has made, they're very misogynistic and very anti-woman based. So and yeah.
I would say this. I think you're right. Banksy has grown to be my friend, and putting your and his issue aside, I know it's going to be hard for you to comprehend this, but Banksy is actually, putting that aside, he's actually a nice guy. He's actually quite considerate, and even I had a chat with him. It was after one of the first demonstrations we went to for Speakers Corner online, and I did say to him, it's like, you guys are at each other's throats, and I mean, just like you're accusing him of X, Y, and Z, he also had a story and accusations against you, and I just said to him, and I'll say to you now, that there's no point continuing this on, and I'm not saying that you're continuing it on, and I'm not saying that he is, that there's no point doing that, because no one's going to win, and all that's going to happen is both of you guys are just going to kind of irritate yourself, and it's just going to get messy. And I think you guys should just come to the conclusion, like, what's happened, and not kind of cross each other's paths. Do you think that's possible for you?
It's not possible. It's something that I'm actively doing. I actively avoid him. I don't come around his spaces. I've pretty much moved on, because I feel like, if anything, and I'm going to be completely honest, I feel sorry for him. And that's actually from the bottom of my heart. I do see, a middle-aged man who's not really that prosperous, and gets a kick out of trying to wind people up, and I don't think that's a very fulfilling life, as far as I'm concerned. And as you earlier mentioned, I'm doing other things that I'm more focused on, and I prioritize more than trying to argue with a grown-ass man. Like, honestly, for me, I don't care. I've actually moved on. I really have, and I'm just looking to do bigger and better things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good for you. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he's wealthy, but he does drive a very nice Mercedes. So maybe we should look into where he bloody got that from, the cheeky bugger. But look, one of the other things is it occurred to me, and please correct me, because I think this is why you made contact. It occurred to me that it seemed like you were using the terms Islamophobe very freely. And it just reminded me of another Speaker's Corner attendant, Raspect. I just feel that the Muslim community, or certain members of the Muslim community, seem to be using the term Islamophobe just to put people into a box so they can attack them, or perhaps it's an easy slur. If I was to accuse you of that, what would be your response?
Well, that's exactly why I initially reached out, because that was the main thing that I wanted to address. Now, for me personally, throughout the years, I've changed a lot of my political views and standpoints, and I don't like the term Islamophobe, first of all, right? I don't think it is the correct term, but obviously I just use it for the sake of semantics. But what I really mean is anti-Islam, anti-Muslim hate, right? That's really what I'm trying to get at. And of course, coming onto these online platforms, I mean, you would never really fully understand it, but there have been some atrocious claims and misconceptions that have been made about Islam and Muslims, which have got to a point where it has caused people to act upon this, like people like Dan Osborne and the New Zealand mass shooter, who, again, he wasn't specifically attacking Muslims, it was more about race, but again, he went to a mosque to sort of prove his point. And that's the main thing. Like, obviously, of course, when it comes to theological debates, because we have to be very specific, I don't mind somebody coming on, criticizing Islam in a civilized manner, or asking questions, right? This is something that I've actually become more open to the idea of, right? Because I think it's actually more fruitful than just hitting people with labels and not really having that dialogue. Because there are people, like I said, who come with a lot of misconceptions. And if those misconceptions were to continue to spew in that individual's mind, then that's going to end up forming some sort of hatred. If I don't understand something, it's better for me to ask about this thing so that I can clear my mind, sort of thing. So when it comes to theological debates, right, I don't mind fair criticism and asking questions. That is something separate. What my problem is when it becomes like the Tommy Robinson movement, the Anne-Marie Walter movement, even the whole you was at Telford and Anne-Marie Waters was there, and she actually made a very generalized statement which could be classified as inciting hatred towards the Muslim community, and she almost blamed Islam, the ideology, Muslims, the people, for the grooming gangs. Now, I had Shamima Begum's lawyer on my channel, and he basically, when I first came across him, he said that if the Muslim community generally wanted to tackle this, we all collectively should have called the police on Anne-Marie Waters. It would have been nothing different to the Jewish community uniting against people like Wiley or against people like Jeremy Corbyn, who make generalized statements or anti-Semitic statements against their community, which could potentially harm their community. So that's my main thing. It's not about a theological thing, right? If people don't agree with the Prophet, if people say Allah doesn't exist, that, for me, I've actually managed to get over that, because it's just people's opinion. My main problem is when people are inciting hatred and violence and discrimination towards the Muslim community.
Okay, so a lot of points there. So first of all, the solicitor, how do I pronounce it? Is it Tasneem Akumunji? Is that how I say it?
Tasneem Akunji.
Cool. Okay, so he was investigated, obviously, over his Taliban post during that whole period of the ISIS bride Shamima Begum, and he actually represented her, right? And I think that was in 21. And there's also been other accusations about what he's representing and what he's fighting for. And in fact, the Solicitors Regulation Authority themselves probed him about that Taliban tweet. Normally, I don't always give a lot of weight to these things, but when the SRA, which is the Solicitors Regulation Authority, does an investigation, I can tell you from from some of my previous businesses that you know, they don't mess about. They don't really get things wrong, and they, you know, they investigate fully. So I'm not sure what the outcome was. I'm assuming that there was no issue that they described, but he's not exactly what I would call somebody who's clean as a whistle, especially on your show. And I didn't watch the entire show, but he did say something that I thought was diabolical, where he said that Islamophobia was indirect racism, which, you know, someone like me, who I don't have any hatred for any religion. I don't have any hatred for Islam. So me being called a racist against other brown people, I just find that comical, and I actually would categorize that comment as quite low IQ and not something that I would expect for somebody who's a lawyer. What's your response to that?
So I actually covered that before. So the reason why I think he would say something like that, or how I would explain that, is that there are some statistics that show that hate crimes towards Muslims are actually influenced by race. Okay, so for instance, you might see a Pakistani Muslim, right? And he will be targeted more so because of his Pakistani race than his actual Muslimness. So for instance, there are some Pakistanis who do not dress with the Muslim attire, yet they are still Muslim, right? And sometimes with these low IQ Islamophobes, they cannot differentiate between a Muslim, a Pakistani, and a Sikh, right? They're not that intellectually understanding, in a sense, to know that deep about theology or whether somebody's of what particular religion. So you can go and research it and look at Islamophobia hate crimes. And I think it's something between 70 to 90% of Islamophobic hate crimes are actually motivated by racism. Do you understand?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to see some statistics and facts on that, but that's fine. I mean, I'll have to look into that. But the other thing that you said was, Anne-Marie Walters said something at the Telford speech. Could you remind me what she said that you didn't like?
So I saw a little clip. I'm just going to remember as much as I know. She was saying something about this grooming issue, this issue. The only ones that we can blame for it is Islam, you know, is Muslims. It's that particular ideology that is enforcing this. That's from what I remember she said.
And you don't think that's the case?
No, of course not, because I mean, I don't know if you saw Danny Tomo's last post before he called it quits. I actually downloaded it, and he was exposing some sort of counselor in Wakefield. I forgot the counselor's name, but it was some sort of recording where he's conversing with somebody, and this specific person claimed that when he was 15 years old, which was probably years ago, this specific English white counselor had sexually abused him and his sister. And Danny Tomo makes a statement when he said something along the lines of, "Oh, so it's not just Pakistanis, it's happening everywhere." And that statement for me is you're a bit too late, because again, they've done statistics which show that majority of pedophiles or even groomers are actually white in Britain. And again, I do not believe Islam is not the driving force for men to go and shower young girls with alcohol and drugs and commit fornication, because the very action that they're doing is un-Islamic. The very action that they're doing would actually require very serious punishment under Islamic law.
But the crime of paedophilia, child abuse, and grooming gang, these are two separate crimes, right? I know a lot of even government statistics have muddied the water with this, but grooming gang objectives and paedophilic child abuse objectives are two entirely different. Paedophilic child abuse is on a sexual basis. Grooming gang has elements of prostitution and making money and various other psychological factors in it. So it's not actually the same crime. The problem is that we as members of the community have allowed the officials to muddy the waters, and we've continued it. Grooming gang is a very specific crime in how they approach and how they execute, and the outcome is, you know, always financial more than anything else. But the other problem is that I think it's kind of a state of mind for a lot of people, is that when you exclusively, which is what I've done, exclusively just look at for a period of time grooming and crime, there is obviously, you'll find that the people that are arrested and charged and put in prison, you know, they are 90% do have Muslim names, and therefore you can say that majority of them will be Muslim, whether they, you know, are wearing the right clothing or not. And as a consequence, you know, you look at European and the grooming gangs around Europe, you know, are, you know, from Turkey, from Somalia, from Morocco, from Tunisia, and, you know, so on and so forth. And so when you factor all that in now, however, to back your argument up, is not to say that it's only Muslims in Europe that have formed gangs and you know, created this prostitution circuit. I'm not saying that, but there does seem to be a strong element of religious belonging when it comes to Muslim grooming gangs.
Right. So the actual official term is not grooming gangs. This is something that is just being coined. The actual term is child sexual exploitation. Why I think the reason why people focus on the grooming gangs is because of the methodology of the grooming, i.e. a group of people. It's almost a form of organized crime. So that is almost a differentiation, which I can understand. But the official term is child sexual exploitation. Now, when it comes to the Pakistani men who are involved in this, they found 266 cases of child sexual exploitation. Out of that 266 cases, 216 of them, yes, were Pakistani over a 15-year period. Now, let me ask you a question, Manny, because in France, recently, they found that a specific, I don't know if it's Catholic or Christian church, had abused over 330,000 children in the space of like 50 to 60 years. And obviously those priests and popes did not act alone. You could even almost go as far as classifying it as a gang. So what would you say is the difference between 5 Pakistani men grooming young girls and 5 French popes and nuns grooming and sexually abusing children?
So great question. So I would say, judging by the British grooming gangs, that it's money. This is why I've used the term prostitution, because the British grooming gangs, they actually sell those girls for sex to other members of their community, their friends, their circles, who come along and rape them. And if you, like I said, if you actually read the reports, the police reports and what have you, you know, most of the girls will say that they were raped by up to, for example, 3,000 men, and that's because, like some of the cases have unfolded, that those girls were passed around restaurants, kebab shops, you know, taxi halls, all types of craziness goes on. So the difference is basically when we see a priest, for example, Christian priests raping in that way and what have you, even if other priests come along and what have you, there's no financial interaction between the priests, right? It's all on a sexual perversion, sickness level. Whereas with these grooming gangs, you know, they prostitute the children out.
Right, and fair enough. But again, when we strongly focus on the motivations of the crime, we almost minimize the actual act of what they're doing. The most vilest thing that they're doing out of all of it is the child sexual abuse. And I feel like this is the problem when you have people like Anne-Marie Waters and Tommy Robinson specifically capitalizing on the grooming gangs. What they're actually doing is actually using the grooming gangs as a scapegoat for the pre-existing institutional pedophilic rings that have been going on for many years. And so this is, I don't differentiate as far as I'm concerned. If you're noncing a child, I don't care what color you are, you're nonce as far as I'm concerned. And so when we start putting people in these specific categories, we almost start doing it as if it's some sort of which one is worse. Right. And that's actually doing a disservice to the victims and the actual situation. And, you know, I've always expressed that these Pakistani grooming gangs are absolutely disgraceful to our community, right? And I can't stress enough how repulsing and disgusted we are that these people even have the audacity to attach themselves to our community. But really what's happened is that you have, again, opportunists like the right who use their own biases against Muslims to jump on the bandwagon. And the thing is, you're jumping on a bandwagon that you are against children being abused. But really, what you're against is children being abused by brown people. So therefore, you're not even sincere in your own principle, because if your whole thing is you're against children being abused, I think the best way to tackle children being abused is not from the top up, it's from the top, it's not from the bottom up, it's from the top down, because this thing is very much institutional. And this is what Tommy Robinson himself even exposed. The only reason why these groomers were able to get away with what they were able to get away with and never got caught until Tommy Robinson came about is because the institution covered up for them. The institution didn't do anything about it. So that's where the main target should be. It's the same thing, just last point, it's the same thing with the drugs. Drug trafficking or people selling drugs. Police are most likely to arrest your average young black 17-year-old in the street corner selling a bit of weed. Why don't they actually address the big guys at the top who are trafficking the drugs in from Eastern Europe into Britain? So they're dealing with the symptom rather than the disease.
I'm a little bit older than you, obviously, but I was born in the late 70s, and I'm actually from up north. I'm not a Londoner, and I'm assuming the whole of the country, but certainly in Yorkshire, majority of the country was Christian. I would see my friends' families. I lived in middle class areas, Christian areas, and I would see them in the 80s. Go to church on a Sundays. Scouts and brownies were all held at the local churches and what have you. It was a strong Christian community in the UK. Was it Orthodox? No, but most people went to church, and I saw that by the 90s when it started coming out, the popes, not just in the UK, but especially in the UK, but around the world and the EU, Europe, sorry. So it started coming out on the revelation that they were raping and abusing children. I saw very quickly that people stopped going to the church. They stopped believing that these people were actually, holier than whatever. And as a consequence, the whole paedophilic situation in English churches, especially. I didn't live in Scotland and Ireland or Wales, so I can't say that. But I've lived in different cities in England, and I can say categorically, from my understanding and from the conversations I've had, that the whole paedophilic priest played, I would say, a strong part in stopping this country being as religious as it was. Do you think if the same thing would happen in the Muslim community if we take into consideration of the child abuse in Afghanistan, in things like you and I have had a disconnected conversation about it before, about the text about Aisha, and even in some other kind of African Muslim communities where genitalia is mutilated. So these type of things, it wouldn't really equate to Muslims saying that perhaps there might be a question over our belief, right? Do you understand my point?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, look, unfortunately, there have been cases of Muslims leaving Islam because of other Muslims, but that is not necessarily because of Islam, the ideology. It is because of the interpretation, the specific people's interpretation of Islam, which is causing people to leave. In the case of child marriage in countries like Afghanistan, again, this is not influenced by the religion. So people do not marry off 6-year-old girls or 9-year-old girls or 10-year-old girls because the Prophet did it. It is actually a case of extreme poverty. And I'm sure you know this, that the parents are selling their children, right? Selling young children to older people who have more financial security. And it's almost an exchange, right? It's a financial exchange. I pay you, I'm buying your daughter. You cannot do this in Islam, right? There's no such thing as forced marriage in Islam. And you cannot pay for marriage against the individual's will. So again, I wouldn't say this is fueled by Islamic scripture or Islamic teachings. This is, a lot of it is cultural, and a lot of it is down to poverty. And that's another thing, back to the grooming gangs, what their motivation is. And I know a lot of people might be slightly offended by this, but I would say a lot of it stems down to South Asian culture. Especially, pre-Islam, it was a predominantly Hindu culture. And I come from the opinion or even the facts. I don't want to go into that, but there are some facts that, you know, show in Hindu scripture that women are not really held to a very high regard, you know, with certain practices like sati. I mean, India itself has the highest rates of female abortions. So when you're stemming from this sort of culture where misogyny is very prevalent, I personally say that this is one of the driving forces of these Pakistani grooming gangs. I would not say that it is Islam. And I'll just give you a quick example. When they're giving children alcohol and even them themselves drinking alcohol, this is a sin, right? In Islam, it's very clear that alcohol is haram and the punishment would be 80 lashes. When they're engaging in fornication, again, 80 lashes, right? When they're taking drugs, all of these things would be punished very severely under Sharia law. So we cannot say that their actions are inspired by Islam because they're going against the teachings of Islam.
But what about ISIS? I mean, they're taking women hostages and keeping them as you know, women that they rape when they're operating. I mean, they're not South Asian, are they?
Well, that's that. Well, again, if you want to go into that, who's joining ISIS? It's majority Eastern European people, right? It's people coming from France, people coming from Germany, people coming from Amsterdam, who again, these countries, some of them are actually very quite Islamophobic. A lot of these Muslims cannot even express their Muslim identity. So in order to fulfill that, they end up joining these groups out of, you know, pure bitterness or pure identity crisis, you know. And again, ISIS is a political organization. It is not a religious organization. No matter how much they want to make it a religious organization, it's simply not. The origins of ISIS are leftover Saddam Hussein sympathizers who simply want to gain revenge after witnessing their country torn to pieces. These are also opportunists, again, who are fighting against dictators like Bashar al-Assad, because that's initially what sort of encouraged ISIS to get in the game. When there was in-house fighting in Syria, which was based on people protesting against the current living conditions, right? The ISIS saw an opportunity. The people are rising up against Bashar. This is our opportunity to swoop in and try, you know, get some sort of, you know, recognition or some sort of power over an ongoing conflict. They're opportunists. There's nothing religious about them. If anything, the religious term for ISIS would be Khawarij, and I'm sure you've heard about the Khawarij. They even existed during the time of the Prophet, or even after the time of the Prophet, who are basically extremists, and they're classified in Islam as the dogs of the hellfire. The dogs of the hellfire. This is what ISIS would be classed as from an Islamic point of view, dogs of the hellfire.
So what about the Mujahideen? Because I remember hearing, not seeing, sorry, apologies. I remember hearing a clip where I think you were having an argument. It was quite heated, and you said something along the lines of big up the Mujahideen. What's the difference between the Mujahideen and ISIS? Are they both not classified as terrorists?
No. So the Mujahideen, from a linguistic point of view, means those who fight in the way of Allah, or those who defend their land, right? So this is actually an Islamic term, right? This is ingrained. Mujahid, somebody that's committing the act of jihad in a sense where they're defending their land. Now, if you remember in the 80s, the Mujahideen was actually a legitimized organization. They were funded by the Americans. Margaret Thatcher herself actually went over to Afghanistan and she actually praised the Mujahideen because the West, for some reason at the time, actually believed that they were fighting a good cause. They were being invaded by the Soviet Union, and so therefore they were defending their land. It is only after they defeated the Soviet Union that some people from the Mujahideen actually transitioned into Al-Qaeda, which then was classed as a terrorist organization. But as far as I know, the actual Mujahideen organization during the 80s, the Americans and the British had absolute no problem with them.
You know, you mentioned previously that ISIS is a political organization, but Islam itself has a financial structure, it has a religious structure, it has a structure of how to defend and attack lands and all these different things. Would you not classify Islam itself as a political structure?
Well, again, I believe that politics requires a form of democracy, which is anti-Islamic. What we have is the Sharia, which is God's law. It is what we would call a path. That's what Sharia means, a pathway, right? And of course, this pathway includes God's laws, which do govern, or govern financial aspects, marriage aspects, but it's not political, because obviously in order for politics to function, there has to be voted in leaders, there has to be democracy. The laws are not binding, so they constantly change, as we've clearly seen here in Britain. Certain things that are legal now were not legal years ago. So, but Islam wouldn't have that. The laws are set in stone. There's no sort of referendum or sort of, you know, change within the laws. The laws are set in standard, you know, set in stone sort of thing.
Okay, so if we were to assess each religion with the outcome of how the people are, so how, if we were to assess Sikhism with how Sikhs are, Hinduism with how Hindus are, so on and so forth, right? Do you think that would be a fair assessment of how good or bad a religion is, or do you think that's kind of an unfair way of assessing a religion?
Sorry, can you rephrase that again? Can you say it again?
If we were to assess each religion by assessing the outcome, and the outcome is the people. So if we were to assess Sikhism, for example, we would have to assess how good Sikhs are. Do you think that's a good way of assessing a religion?
Not really, no, because with all due respect, I don't think the Sikh community has had the amount of invasions, especially in the 21st century, destabilization compared to Muslims. I don't think it would be a fair analysis. If you know, what I mean by that really is the Muslims right now are not in a good condition. So if we're going to analyze Muslims of the 21st century, of course, Sikhs and other people will fare well compared to us, but it's not necessarily because of the religion. Again, it is because of the respective nations that Muslims come from and the constant 20 years of illegal invasions, of destabilizations, which has bred terrorist groups. I mean, prior to 9/11, you didn't really see these Muslim terrorist groups existing, you know. So, you know, that's what I have to say about that.
Well, I think the Muslim nations were struggling prior to all that, but yeah, I agree. The invasions definitely do not help in any way. It's not. I mean, if you look at what happened to Afghanistan and what happened to Iran, those countries went backwards as soon as Western meddling was there. So I'm not gonna bite on that. But look, when you came on to Speaker's Corner, let's change the subject a little bit. When you came on to Speaker's Corner, if I remember correctly, you were initially very, very popular. You know, you were getting a lot of attention, and then all of a sudden, it seemed it went south, and everybody was kind of getting at you. Do you think the incident with the Chinese lady was kind of a stumbling block for you, because that was kind of an ugly situation? I'm sure you'll agree.
Well, I think I was getting hate before that, specifically from the Muslim community, because, you know, you could say that I was possibly very liberal in that sense, wasn't really having any serious debates. I was just really pretty much acting silly, if I'm going to be fairly honest. But definitely with the Korean woman, I think yeah, that was a really bad situation that I got myself into, which I believe increased a lot of the hate, and almost some people just completely ruled me out in that sense. You know, it's like, right, that's it. You know, this is unforgivable almost. And you know, I had to do a lot of redeeming in that sense. But again, I would say my behavior was a reflection of my circumstances and the situation that I was going through at the time. I think since then, especially having the experience that I've had debating, because, you know, you have to understand, I'm not somebody that was particularly overly interested in religion or political debates or politics at all. I just saw Speaker's Corner as a place where people had a voice, and I used my voice based on my experience, not my knowledge, not my wisdom. I wasn't somebody like Muhammad Hijab or the other guys who actually studied, who had credentials. I was just relying on my life experiences, specifically me being in foster care. So somebody that had direct dealings with the system. That was my pretty much initial message. Then throughout the years, debating, becoming more aware and understanding of the political climate, that's when my sort of message changed. And I started having more political debates, especially with the far right, which lasted for about a year. I mean, that went on for ages. And you know, I've completely changed the direction and the method that I'm going about it. Hence why I haven't really been in Speaker's Corner too much. If anything, I'm more on YouTube. I'm also on TikTok. You know, just really trying to speak outside of the Speaker's Corner sphere, because Speaker's Corner is a very harsh crowd to deal with, and I don't know if you feel like that either. But Speaker's Corner, you know, you have to really have a lot of resilience to deal with the Speaker's Corner crowd, and you know, it can get quite a lot. And so sometimes I think Speaker's Corner is good for debates, but I'm looking more so for discussions rather than debates at this moment of time.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, look, I would say from all the Speaker's Corner people that I know, I heard more rumors about you than even Gordon Brown and Boris Johnson put together. There's literally some of it I don't even know what's true on what's not, and some of it some of it has to be untrue, because the stuff that people say is just ridiculous. But I must admit, I mean, I thought it was a Chinese lady. You've corrected me. It's a Korean lady. I thought that was the trigger point where everyone seemed to kind of get at you and you know, call you out increasingly. But if you say it was before that, because you started attending Speaker's Corner as I kind of left, to be honest, because I was kind of sick and tired of the whole shenanigans going on there. Anyway, sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat. I don't know why. That's why if I sound like a frog, I apologize. I threw a lot of questions at you there, and you know, you
Well,
weren't
I just wanted
expecting
to
any of
address
them.
that the whole rumors thing, and somebody in the chat made a statement, shagging about and taking drugs and alcohol is very liberal. You know, again, these are very personal things that it's almost impossible for somebody who's never met me, who's never been in my physical presence on a day-to-day basis, to know, right? No, you know, nobody would know if I take drugs or drink alcohol, even shag about. You're not with me to witness these things. And this is a beautiful thing about Islam, because such accusations, if not proven, would actually cause the individual to be to go through a very serious punishment. You know, I've been with Waleed for 6 years. There was a point where we definitely broke up, and no, I didn't get with somebody else. If anything, there's actually evidence to show that Waleed moved on and got with somebody else. So for people to come to the assumption
when he accused you of going to Spain on, I think it was, I can't remember whose channel it was. Are you saying that was completely false and unverifiable?
Look, you can believe me or not, but I can swear on God's name, I have never ever been to Spain. I was actually in France, and I am the one who said that I was in Spain, because at the time I had quite a lot of issues with some people, and I actually left the country, and I did not want to give them my exact location, so I said that I was in Spain, just to almost redirect them to somewhere else. But I've never ever in my life been to Spain. I was actually in the south of France. I was actually with a female friend who actually also attends Speaker's Corner. I mean, I'm not going to say her name. Some people know who she is, some people may not. But I was actually with a female friend in France. And obviously, you know, I did not let Waleed know at the time. I just left. And obviously for him, it was a bit of a shock. He came online spurging, saying whatever the hell that he's saying. And, you know, people came to their own conclusions, you know. But again, you know, for these things to be factual and for them to be true, you know, rumors are rumors. People can pass on Chinese whispers all they like, but if people generally want to know the truth and you know, want to, you know, generally believe this has happened, then all they have to do is bring the facts, and nobody's ever done that. Nobody's ever brought facts that I was in Spain. Nobody's ever brought facts that I was shagging about or with this one or that one. You know, it's just hearsay at this point, and it's just something that I think not just myself that goes through. I think, I'm sure you know, especially what's been going on the last couple of weeks with other people. This is the nasty side of the internet. People will do anything to dehumanize you, character assassinate you, to almost delegitimize your message. But also, one thing I will say, and I will take accountability for, because I'm not going to just sit here and blame it on trolls. My problem is I was divulging quite a lot on the internet, and I have realized not to do that anymore. You know, because you give people an inch and they take a mile, and I think I was giving people too much of an inch and they went completely miles ahead with it. So I've learnt to keep the private stuff private, and most of the personal stuff that's being conveyed on the internet was coming from Waleed, who was an ex-partner. It is two exes, a couple arguing in front of everybody else. It's not a case of, you know, some other geezers come online and said, oh, I know Zoubida from 2000. No, it's my ex, it's Waleed. Do you know what I mean? It's me and him going back and forth. And again, I'm sure you know this, if there's a couple, they've fallen out, you know, in the heat of the moment, based on emotions, they're gonna spurge, and most of the stuff that's been, most of the rumors have actually stemmed from Waleed, who is an ex-partner. Do you understand? So that's really what it is.
I saw quite a powerful video actually on Mr. Rack's TV. I can't remember how long time ago. You were telling about your childhood and how you went through care and all that. I mean, this might be a silly question. All that was true, right? You went through the care system as you were growing older.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's quite an emotional thing to share. I've got nothing. I've got no negative question about that. You know, my heart goes out to anybody that's in that situation. But my question is really just looks a general question. It's like, what type of this is not just personal to you. It's a general question to anybody in that situation. Like, what type of effect does that have on a person's psyche when they're in that situation? Because I can't ask this type of question to a general person, because they're just going to be guessing. You yourself have lived through that. So in terms of how your mental state is, what type of effect does that have now that you're an adult and you can reflect back?
That's a good question, and funnily enough, I actually addressed this today on one of my other live feeds. It does have a lot of psychological effects, because being taken away from your family and being almost institutionalized, because there's a difference between a foster home and a care home. So a foster home is very family friendly. You're just an extra child living in a family home with a father or a mother. But care homes is almost like a mini prison, right? There's staff members, there's other children, there's much more restrictions. And so when you become institutionalized from a very young age, it causes you to have, first of all, a lot of trust issues, because you feel like you're constantly being watched, you're constantly being restricted. So it almost breeds a rebellious type of person, because it's almost like locking up a lion in a cage, and eventually when you open up that cage, that lion's just going to go out and you know, roar and catches or do whatever it's doing. And so that's for me what I thought what caused one of the effects was being overly rebellious, right? Not listening to any sort of authoritative person, because in my head I thought, you know, if I you're not my mom, you're not my father, I don't owe you anything, I don't owe you any respect. I think stability is another problem, I feel like, and building relationships, because I lived in 11 foster homes, and so nearly every year I would constantly have to change homes, change environment, change the people that I was living with, so I could form an attachment with somebody, and the next thing you know, I'll never see them again. And in the beginning, it can be very stressful and very distressing, but once you get used to it, it actually builds up this level of resilience and this natural detachment that you can come across as very cold and unbothered, because you've had to go through constant change that you've never asked for. In my adult years, I feel like it became very difficult, specifically between 18 to 20 years old, because once you turn 18 in the care system, you are then prompted to live independently. So when you're in foster care, you have that security of having regular income, having a roof over your head, not necessarily, you're not paying rent, not paying gas bills or anything like that. Once you're 18, they just let you out into the real world. And I never had any support with that at all, you know, and I found myself renting from a lot of dodgy landlords and dodgy people, and it kept me in this cycle of survival mode, right? Because I was just taken from an institution of security and let out into the big world without having any knowledge of how to function or how to deal with it, especially as a young woman. You know, it's very dangerous, and you become very, very vulnerable, and a lot of people will try to take advantage of you. So again, that builds up a level of resilience within myself, but it also builds up a level of paranoia and not being able to trust people. I think now that I'm 24, I think that I've accepted my circumstances, because a lot of people, especially when they get to this age, it's like a cup of water and the water's starting to spill. And so statistically, a lot of kids that leave care end up being in prison, end up having drug and alcohol misuse problems, end up having severe depression. I believe that I've passed that benchmark. I think if there was a time where I was supposed to have lost it, I think it would have already happened. There's times where I've slipped, but I was able to regain myself and come back stronger. I mean, there's a guy that I used to live with in my care home, somebody that I lived with for a year, who I would have classed as my brother. And I was actually thinking about him the other day, and I just researched his name on Google, and he's now serving a 20-year prison sentence for chopping off somebody's arm. That is a statistic of a care home child, right? And I was really upset because obviously I don't agree with what he did, but I knew this person as a young child, and he was somebody that suffered severe neglect. I mean, his mother was on every type of drug. She actually gave birth to him while she was in prison, right? So this is somebody that's had an awful childhood, and unfortunately, the outcome of that awful childhood, the outcome of being institutionalized, is now he's serving a 20-year sentence for a horrific crime, right? I would say that I'm lucky, as much as anybody, whatever they think about me, I would say that I'm lucky that I've become somebody, regardless of my circumstances, who's got a voice, who's got a platform, who's trying to have decent conversations. I can't say for a lot of many other kids who are in care, who have come out much worse.
Yeah. All right. Well said. There's no. It's a tough thing. I know that from my own research that the lasting effects of these situations is very troubling. All right. I'm going to leave it on that note. I thought that's a good ending there, Zoubida. I think that was quite a powerful statement. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share with everybody? You seem to have a lot of haters in the chat. I don't know if you like that or you don't like that, but if you want to finish off with a statement, then please go ahead.
No, I mean, I appreciate you allowing me on. I don't think me and you've actually ever really clashed, to be fair. Regardless of your little friendship circle, who predominantly most of them don't like me, I think every conversation that I've had with you has actually been quite respectful, quite civilized. And I also wanted to say thank you for last time, which obviously somebody sent me your stream, said, "Oh, Banksy's talking about you," and I actually heard you correct him and say, leave the personals aside, don't attack the person, attack the idea, which I strongly echo, and I think that's a good standpoint. Because, I'm not afraid of humanity. There's a lot of Muslims who will say to me, "Why are you talking to this Islamophobe?" I'm somebody that actually wants to understand my opponent, understand where they're coming from. Hence why I did open up my platform to a lot of controversial characters, not necessarily because I agreed with them, but because I wanted to understand them, because I feel like the system purposely pins us against each other to be in this constant state of conflict, right? Which gives them the opportunity to show their upper hand. And I'm trying to actually go against that narrative. Yes, we might not like each other, we might not agree with each other, but that does not mean we should now fight each other. So, that's just my main thing, and really why I came on here to have this chat. And I think it's been good.
Yeah, I think it's been excellent. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for kind of taking that step, because I know from my side, like, even I'll get stick. I'll get a stick for today, even though this is not my channel. But I got a lot of stick from when I let See Alive host one of the streams on Money Cinder Live, I think it was, because I just don't think that. My position is nobody is really evil. I just think psychological states of mind pushes people to do certain things. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but instead of kind of always looking at what divides us, sometimes we should just put our kind of tongues and weaponries down and just think of what kind of can unite us. Because if you think about it, there's only a handful of people that are causing all the harm to the world, and it's not us. I mean, what's the worst thing that you and I are going to do? Probably rob a store or something. But there's governments out there that are robbing countries and robbing families, and so that's a far worse crime as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Cool, brilliant. Thank you so much, Zoubida. Thanks. Look, apologies. I know I just threw at you all these questions. It's just a conversation I've been wanting to have for a while, and I knew you could handle it. So thank you so much for spending time with us, answering those questions and clarifying a lot of the points that were thrown at you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Take care.
See you. Goodbye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that conversation and interview. I thought Zoubida did a fine job there. I don't have anything else lined up. If I could, actually I am. Since we talked about religion, I'm going to play one video and then this video after this we shall sign off. It's a video you want to watch. Okay, so just give me a second or two while I line this up. But it's definitely a video that you need to see, and you can thank me later. Where's the come on, that's not it. Don't embarrass me. That's not it. Bear with me. I wanna give you a bit of a dance send off after this. I'm just lining up the next video. No, that's not it either. Okay. No. Is that it? Yes, got it. Awesome. Right. Let's watch this video. I think it's very powerful. I've read the Bible a number of times. Chrissy Morris. Now I've seen that name fly up between a conversation. Was it? No, I think it was with Banksy. I think you tried to ask him to come on, or you wanted to come on or something. I can't remember what it was. So I think you've got Banksy's details. If you haven't, come on to Speakers Corner online. So it's www.speakerscorner.online. Get in touch with Banksy on there, and let's arrange an interview, because I've actually seen a very interesting video of yours about the council tax. I've interviewed common law specialists on my channel before, but now I've just remembered. Right, let's share this video and then I'll play the outro after this.
When I was 10 years old, my dad sat me down and he said to me, I want you to listen to this. There's going to come a day where they're going to tell you to put a microchip in you. He goes, I want you to make me a promise. You will not accept that bit of technology. And I said, Dad, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? He goes, listen to my words. I made my dad a promise when I was 10 years old. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in.
So basically, that man started reading out the Bible, which describes the RFID chip that we're all going to be implanted with. So he started reading that out, and as soon as he did, the Australian police came and kidnapped him. Something to think about. Thank you very much for everybody watching. I'll see you next week. I believe Banksy will be back. If not, I've got some interviews lined up anyway. See you later.
Dancing and love put us into a groove. As soon as we started Let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing with you all night dancing. Let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing. Let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing with you all night dancing. Let's go dancing. Oh, let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing with you all night dancing. Let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing with you. Let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing with you. I wanna go dancing with you all night dancing. Let's go dancing. I wanna go dancing with you all night dancing. Let's go dancing. We started dancing and love put us into a groove.